Get everybody seated. We have a lot of folks that are interested in making sure that we get done at 8 o'clock, so you can go home and watch a football game or something. But we just need to get started on time. So.
If tomorrow the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, and thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American.
We'd like to start with a moment of silence for one of the members of the Republican Club that passed away, I believe it was last month, Warren Seacrest. So if you'd join me in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. So let us start with a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you with thankful hearts. Thank you for the new leadership for our country. Thank you for your presence in our lives, and thankful that we can gather here tonight. We ask your blessing on this meal and our time together. Amen. Okay. Whoops. I didn't see you.
I snuck up behind him. So if you'd please join me in the pledges. First, the pledge to the United States. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas flag pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Oh my goodness, what a great evening we have here tonight. Hang on, I have to get in the mood. We have a jam-packed audience here tonight, and on behalf of the Republican Club here at Heritage Ranch, I want to thank you all for your continued support of the programs that we provide for you, and for the kinds of important things that you do throughout the year in your volunteer efforts to help us get the job done. So thank you. Now, it is important. We have like 100 people back there in what we call the grill or the dining room area, and we have worked hard. We have a team of people that have worked hard, working closely with both Pete and Pat to provide a better experience for you back in the grill and the dining room. So you should have better sound equipment and you should have better visual. Is that true back there? Listen, for all the time and effort that we put into this, I'm thrilled to get a positive response, so thank you. All right, now to our members that are at the moment, we'll have you get seated, but remember, it is important that you take the card that is in the back of your name tag and put that out there so that our folks can, the waiters can determine what meal that you have ordered. So that's how they know whether you're having steak or fish or whatever. Also, Tirza has told me that if you chose to eat your salad ahead of time, that's great because that gives them a chance to bust those plates off the table and actually helps them. So that's up to you as to whether or not we do that or not. But again, thank you for that. All right, we're getting ready to get started here. First, I'm going to have Gary, who is in charge of our Christmas parade, has a little bit of a presentation here. So, Gary.
Thank you. So if I could be seated. So if I could have Pam and Gary Greenwood make your way up here. This year we had our first competition for the Heritage Ranch Republican Club Parade. And we were trying to figure out what we can do, and we said, well, let's give an award for the best decorated cart, golf cart that is. And we did that, and I'd like to present it tonight. And outside of the Stanley Cup, this is the most important cup in the state of Texas. So on behalf of the Republican Club, congratulations, you guys did a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So listen, we have, there's excitement throughout the room tonight. I got a chance to meet several of you personally, and you all told me it's been a great day. You've been glued to the TV, so we feel your excitement. And by the way, I just want to make a little statement here. I noticed that most of the men that were on the TV today had white shirts and red ties. So I wanted to bring a little bit of that to you. I also noticed that the red tie that the president was wearing reached down past the belt. So if I pull my pants up, I can make that happen. All right, we're getting ready now. As you know, we are a body that is governed by bylaws, and we're getting ready now to reinstate our new board for the year 2025. So I would ask Judge Raleigh to come on up, and I would ask all of the new board members to please come on up and be sworn in.
Yeah, everybody continue to eat. I'm Judge Raleigh. I'm your justice of the peace, folks. Yeah, go ahead and clap. It's all right. I've been your judge for about the last 25 some years, and my jurisdiction covers Heritage Ranch. I want to tell you and encourage you, if you're traveling this year, you might want to go see that new body of water that we just acquired down on the other side of Houston called the Gulf of America. Let's swear in your new board members. So I'm going to read the oath of office, and when I get through, you're going to respond with I do or I will. If you'll raise your right hand. This is the oath of office for the Republican Club at Heritage Ranch. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will faithfully execute the duties of the office of board member of the Republican Club at Heritage Ranch and will, to the best of your ability, uphold the principles and values of the Republican Party and serve the members of this club with integrity, transparency, and dedication, and will work tirelessly to promote this club's shared ideals of liberty, personal responsibility, and limited government, and furthermore, promise to foster a spirit of cooperation and respect among all members, encouraging open dialogue and active participation in this club's mission. And in your actions, strive to reflect the values of the Republican Party and contribute positively to your community and above and beyond, so help you God. Ladies and gentlemen, your new board.
Yes, you can go. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, just for the record, who in here watched the TV today? You saw a transfer of power. Yes. It went from the the Democrat to the Republican. You're now seeing the transfer of power from Jack to me. So, welcome and thank you for coming out tonight. The following items we have that are going to be for our future events. Debbie Georgatos, Texas National Committee woman from the Republican National Committee, will be here on February the 10th. She's got a jam-packed program for us. It'll be very, very exciting. And then the Lincoln Day dinner that is normally on Lincoln Day. But because the Collin County GOP was not able to secure the necessary information for this year, they've moved it to the 29th. Now, we will be encouraging people to attend that meeting. We will be promoting that in the very near future. So look forward to the promotions that we're going to be having over the next probably 2 weeks once we get the information from the Collin County office. With that, we're going to have Julie talk about the trip to Austin. Julie?
Thank you, Clayton. Today was a great day. Great day. So, equally important has been that last week started the 89th Texas legislative session. Last week, the vote for the Speaker of the House didn't go the way we thought it would go, but that's not going to stop us. We're going to continue to support the Texas GOP priorities, And one of those ways to do that will be a trip to the Capitol. So we're targeting possibly the week of March 24th, but stay tuned, watch your email, watch the website. This is a shameless plug for the website. Great information on the website. Georgina does a fantastic job with that. Watch the website and stay tuned for information on a trip to the Capitol to where we can push the Texas GOP priorities.
Thank you, Julie. For those elected officials and those who are candidates, if they would proceed out through these doors here, Donna Gill will be out there to have you come across the stage and introduce yourself. This is something that we do every meeting. We want our candidates, we want our elected officials to make sure you can identify them in person and face to face. So if you are an elected official or you are running for a position in the near future, if you would come through the back door here, and Donna is coming, I think. Come on, Kathy.
Good evening. I'm Cheryl Williams, and I'm so impressed that you have such an overflow crowd on a cold night like this, but I shouldn't be surprised by this club at all. I am your county commissioner. Heritage Ranch is in my precinct, and I really appreciate all of you so very much.
Hi, good evening. I'm Judge Brooke Folks, Judge of the 470th District Court, and I just wanted to thank everybody for all of the phone calls and texts and block walking and everything that you did so that today we could celebrate our great President Donald J. Trump becoming president again. So thank you.
Hi, y'all. I'm Candy Noble, and I'm honored to serve you in the Texas House. I can't wait for y'all to come see me. Meanwhile, if you need anything, I now have a full-time district director, Robert Lane. He is here in the district full-time, and he's ready and willing to help you with anything you have trouble with the state government. So look forward to seeing you guys in Austin.
Thank you, Kathy.
Hi there, good evening. I'm Julie McLaughlin, and I am honored to serve this community on the Lovejoy ISD School Board, Position 1.
And I'm Mark Wheelis, and I'm honored to be here in front of you today. I'm on my second year, my third year term, and Lovejoy won the Lone Star Cup, which is basically academics, fine arts, and sports, and so we were number one in all of 5A. So thank you.
Thank you for your support. We appreciate it. Amazing things going on with our students. And thank you for Candy's support. She came out and supported us as well when we won that award. So thank you. Appreciate you.
I'm Aubrey Stock. Our family lives in Lucas. I'm running for Lovejoy ISD School Board. It's the open seat, Position 2, and I'm excited to get to know all of you and earn your vote.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Heritage Ranch. My name is Sammy Knapp, Constable Precinct 3. I'm your constable on the other side of the street. Thank you.
Howdy, everybody. My name is Michael Slaughter. I'll be running for the Precinct 2 County Commissioner seat in 2026. That is the commissioner seat for this entire club, so I definitely am going to be out and about and working for your vote. Other than that, happy Inauguration Day, and as we keep going, remember, fight, fight, fight.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dwayne Kurtz. I'm the Constable, Precinct 2.
That was real quick. My name is John Hubbard. I've been on the town council in Fairview since 2020, my word. I've served as the mayor pro tem for the last 2 years, and I'm happy to announce today that I'm going to run for mayor of the town of Fairview. Thank you. Henry Lesner is not running, so what a great person to follow with Henry Lesner. Thank you.
Happy New Year, everybody. I'm Rich Connolly. I'm Fairview Council seat number 1, and I did keep my only resolution for the new year, and that was last Wednesday I filed my paperwork to run for re-election in the May general election. So I need your vote and your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Pat Sheehan. I live over on Bethpage Court here at Heritage Ranch, and I filed my paperwork last week also to run for seat number 5 on the Fairview Town Council. I think that it's interesting to note that 99% of the people in this room were not born in the town. We all moved here from somewhere, right? And we moved here because of a reason, and the reason was what kind of a special community this is. And I've watched the town council. I believe the town council's #1 duty is to protect the reasons that we all moved here and to keep the character of this town. So God bless you all. Pat Sheehan, seat number 5. Thank you. I appreciate your support.
Thank you, Pat.
Hi, folks. I'm Ken Logston, and I'm the current occupant of seat number 5. Fairview has term limits, and I wish everybody did. So I'm done in May, but I wanted to take this opportunity to help you make informed decisions about your votes in the local election. Information is good. I've got a lot of information about those 3 guys right there. 2 of them I've served with for over about 4 years, and the other one, Pat, I just met in the last few months, but we've had lots of discussions. And I want to tell you that these are 3 guys that you can support. Hope you'll learn about them. I'm voting for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you. It's a great day to announce when you're running for a candidate. Wouldn't you agree? I'm Jill Hawkins. I'm going to be running for place 3 for Fairview Town Council. Filed my paperwork today. Looking forward to your support.
Thank you, Jill.
My name is Maggie Witt. I am your SREC SD8 committee woman. We are working hard, and we've succeeded because Texas is more red than it's ever been, and Collin County is more red than it's ever been. And I'm going to Austin just about every week that I can to make sure it stays that way.
Thank you, Maggie. With that, we will go ahead and we will have dinner served, so enjoy dinner.
Attention, please. I know it's hard to stop talking, but we want to get you going, and we want to keep our promise to you that we always end the meeting by 8 o'clock, so you could see the second half of the Notre Dame-Ohio State game, if that's important to you. At any rate, appreciate your attention. Some of you in the ballroom mentioned to me that it was uncomfortable, it was starting to get a little warm, and we talked to our maintenance people, Pat did, and we have been able to bring in more fresh air, so it should be cooling down for you if that's what you want. For those of you who are in the dining room, the temperature there is already good. I checked, and that's what you told me, so good for you. Okay, this opportunity I have to introduce our guest speaker is really, really an honor. So I'm not only going to, it turns out that 2 years ago this month, we had a doctor here giving us a presentation, and at that time, you all were thoroughly impressed with the presentation, and we've had several of our members ask us, can we get doctor back? And so we did some work, and fortunately he was willing to work with us, and we got him back. So I know you all want to hear from him. Before you do, though, let me just say one thing. I think it's important that we understand that, you know, it's impressive that he's a great internist. It's impressive that he is a well-published, in fact, the most published cardiologist. It's impressive that he's a great epidemiologist. You notice I didn't say that real well. And at any rate, yeah, thank you. You know, the more we get into these medical terms, the worse it gets for me, so I need to end with that. So I could spend a lot of time talking about just those three things. But the truth of the matter is that I will have missed what I think is an important thing for you to know. And that is that, number one, first of all, besides being brilliant, he is a hard-working person. In a few minutes, I'll tell you one more thing that would kind of summed up why we wanted to do this. So anyway, I was talking to my good friend Mark Brugge, who we are both friends of Dr. McCullough's, and Mark said, did you know that he reads the Bible religiously and knows it backwards and forward? Well, that's the way he does everything. But I did not know that until Mark told me that. And I think it's important for you to understand the importance of not just being the person, you know, that has all of those medical degrees, but also the person that is a solid Christian man. We all are Christian people here in this room tonight, and we enjoy hearing from speakers like that. Doctor is also committed to his wife and children. He's a strong family man. That's another thing that ties him closely to us, because those are the things that we cherish. So I get his daily blog. Many of you do. Many of you have told me that you do. And, you know, I like those two words, you know, courageous discourse, which I can tell you that those two words definitely fit this man. And if you read his book, if you haven't read his book, it's for sale out here, and our ladies will be glad to help you get it, and we'll see if we can get Doctor to autograph it for you before you leave tonight. But here's the important thing. We all wish that we had the courage of our convictions. We all wish that in those times when it matters most, that we are able to step up and do the important and right thing. Sometimes some of us fall short on that, but the guiding example of what that courage is and the price that a person is willing to pay to have the conviction and that this doctor has is amazing. And that's why I think you all asked us to get him back here again. So I'm not going to waste any more time, because he's the guy we want to hear, but it is indeed my honor to introduce to you tonight Dr. Peter McCullough.
Thank you so much. That was a terrific, terrific introduction at the end of a fabulous day. And we were just talking at our table how different it was here at this audience 2 years ago. How different it was. How it was dismal. Not that the people were dismal, but our outlook was dismal. And John Leake, my co-author who's here, we were just recalling, can we think of anything in the last 4 years that gave us hope or optimism? Can we think of anything that came out of the executive branch or the House and the Senate by which we got out there and cheered like you just cheered just now? Can't think of anything. It's an extraordinary time. And people have been searching for words to summarize what now President Trump delivered in that speech around midday. But the words are coming up, are optimism, that we have a sense of optimism, of hope, of renewal, of greatness. It's very, very important for a leader to inject optimism among others because it's contagious, and that leader can't do it all himself or herself. It's the will of the people that accomplish great things for nations. And he clearly understood that. And with every point made, you saw this rousing applause, and then you saw Biden and Harris kind of slinking into their chairs. And I wonder, at that level, given the insulation of the handlers around our leaders, do they ever hear an opposing point of view, really? Well, they did today, and I thought the indoor arena, the indoor venue for that inauguration speech worked out great, except for the AV guy and Carrie Underwood. Why is it, even at that level, it's Carrie Underwood, they couldn't, and she's waiting, and she's waiting, and she's trying to be as cordial as possible, but you always wonder, the AV guy, even there at the inauguration, I had to chuckle. But an overarching theme of the messages that we received today, one of the ultimate themes has been censorship and us individually being stripped of one of our fundamental civil rights. In fact, even worse, it came out in one comment of being stripped of an inalienable right. And that is when Trump made his comment in proclamation that every military member who was kicked out of the military, stripped, demoted, lost their careers because they did not comply with a COVID vaccine mandate would be reinstated with back pay. With back pay. He didn't say for a year. He didn't say since 2022. He didn't say since the Supreme Court decided partially in a case called Navy SEAL versus Lloyd Austin. He said it in a complete manner. All of them for all the period of time. It's very important to read into that because the message here is that no one should ever be forced to take an injection into their body against their will by any other person or organization for any reason whatsoever. It's very important. You have an inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to live the way that you want to live and take care of the body that God gave you. It's your body, it is your choice, and it applies to, for sure, medications and vaccines. Okay, I have some updates from Washington towards the end of the Biden administration that are going to carry forward into the new Trump administration. One is the U.S. House report on the COVID-19 public health response. And the chairperson was Kathy McMorris Rogers, who's a Republican from Washington State. The report's 113 pages. To summarize, now this is a House investigative report. It's an official government document. It's not my opinion or your opinion. The Health and Human Services Division, which is a very, very large government agency with a dozen sub-agencies. We're talking a massive organization. During the pandemic, heavily used PR agencies, public relations agencies, and specifically they did so to exaggerate the mortality risk from COVID-19, to inflate it, to make it seem more frightening than what it should have been. Many of you received these frightening messages. I can recall one of them. And you knew it had to be coordinated by some type of public relations firm reaching out to all the media all at once. The first one I can remember was, "No one is safe." Remember that one? No one is safe. Well, you may laugh at it now. You're at Heritage Ranch, you're playing tennis, you're fit and strong. But what if you are a senior citizen in independent living and you've been locked down for months and you're told no one's safe? People took these messages seriously. They were glued to their TV. They could do nothing else. It injected fear into our senior citizens. It was intentional. It was intentionally deceptive by our Health and Human Services Agency, and was led by HHS Secretary Xavier Becerra, directly under the executive branch of Biden. It was an operation to affect our thinking. This is in the report. Public relations effort in media spots to downplay side effects and safety concerns from the vaccines. So we didn't get a straight story. With any medicine or vaccine, there's benefits and there's risks, but we weren't hearing about the risks. We were hearing one side of the story, and it was very intentional. It was an operation. Another part of this operation was a relentless pursuit of the mask and the importance of the masks and all these statements regarding masks, and it just kept going and going and going and going. Now, I can tell you, as many of you know, I'm on national TV a lot, and when called on primetime TV, there is a series of interactions that the guest has with the producers. But these talking points that come up from the news channel and the producer, the origins of those commonly are PR agencies or intermediaries that are, quote, floating stories out there. That's part of the biz. That's how the news business works. You wonder, how do they get stories? Well, this, during the pandemic, was taken over by HHS and these mega PR agencies. Important conclusion from this report. Health and Human Services never again should adopt a policy of silencing dissenting scientists in creating the illusion that there was consensus with our Centers for Disease Control. Never again. Doctors who had a dissenting opinion, scientists and others, were silenced. They were censored, particularly on early treatment methods to help people navigate through the pandemic, particularly on masks and whether or not we even needed them, or lockdowns or social distancing, and for sure on the vaccines. Did they really work? Did they not? It was a silencing. Mark Zuckerberg recently went on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he controls the Meta platforms, which are Facebook and Instagram, and said when someone posted something about a vaccine side effect, the Biden administration would call up his offices and say, take that down. There was continuous surveillance of what was going on in social media to create a stilted view of really what was going on with the vaccine campaign. That's the reason why people can't believe it. When you talk to your friends and you say, well, somebody says, well, I had a side effect with the vaccine. You say, well, we never hear about that. It's because it was silenced. Now, the last big report just came out December of 2024, and this came from the House Oversight Committee, so it has oversight over agencies and processes in Washington, and this was the House Select Oversight Subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic, and it was led by Representative Brad Wenstrup from Ohio, who is also a doctor of podiatric medicine. This is 577 pages long, and there are 6 important conclusions. The SARS-CoV-2 virus, for sure, is man-made in a joint U.S.-Chinese collaboration, and the virus almost certainly came out of the China Wuhan Institute of Virology. A U.S.-Chinese collaboration. It's very important. The United States had a great degree of involvement. They just didn't fund it. It was U.S. intellectual capital that allowed, the Chinese did the work, but in many respects, it was our idea to create SARS-CoV-2. Our idea. A U.S. idea got the whole world sick. Well, whose idea was it really? Well, the collaborators were Dr. Ralph Baric at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Peter Daszak at the EcoHealth Alliance, who's recently been debarred from all HHS projects and involvement, Anthony Fauci, who oversaw the National Institutes of Health division that provided the funding, the support, the coordination, and Dr. Xingling Li, the bat lady in Wuhan. Now, there's a wider circle of individuals in this report, and every single email that went back and forth between Fauci and Ralph Baric and Peter Daszak, what have you, you can just see every email in this report. It's obvious they know they created it, and it's obvious that that group worked together to cover it up. To say, you know what, it didn't come out of the lab, it wasn't man-made, it must have come out of nature. And they kept that misrepresentation out in the media, and they attempted to squash anybody who said otherwise for a very long time, for about 1.5 years. So it's important for us to understand that just a few hours before Biden left office, he gave Dr. Anthony Fauci an unconditional preemptive pardon that dates back to 2014. Fauci is in this U.S. government report as a co-conspirator in the creation of SARS-CoV-2 and its cover-up. Second major finding, COVID relief funding was fraught with fraud and abuse. People stole money from the government in this COVID relief funding. All kinds of fraudulent claims for unemployment to various types of schemes that people schemed up, personal protective equipment, masks, social distancing, COVID money all over the place. Finding number 3, the vaccines did not stop the spread of SARS-CoV-2. This is in a government report. And that the vaccine mandates were not justified. It's not my, again, it's not your opinion or my opinion. This is in a U.S. government report, and they spent, months and months and months deliberating and investigating. Point number 5, the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and its mismanagement resulted in the loss of 160,000 businesses in our country. 60% of them never reopened. It was the terminating effect, and we know so many people who lost their jobs during COVID for a variety of reasons. Finding number 5, the societal impact is unmeasurable in terms of fracturing our relationships. I have known so many people who still are on non-speaking terms with friends or family because of some issue during the pandemic. Children who have lost a year or more of school and development and cannot catch up. Linguistic development. There are children to this day that feel uncomfortable not wearing a mask. It's real. The psychological impact is real. Indoctrination. Indoctrination happened and it was real. I had a chance on my show to interview Dr. Claudia Chauffin from York University in Toronto, and she's done all the research on this. The college students were indoctrinated. They actually believed the best thing to do was to protect others by taking a vaccine that did not stop the spread of the virus. They completely bought it. These are very intelligent young people. They completely bought the idea that the campuses should shut down and they should go on Zoom. They were completely indoctrinated. That's the reason why you don't hear much complaint from young people today about what's going on. It worked. This giant psychological operation worked. And then point number 6, the executive branch, and that is the Biden administration, the executive branch obstructed investigations. They obstructed the inspector general. They obstructed the investigative nature of these committees as they were investigated. We saw corruption sweep in to not only Washington, D.C., but all over. No one seemed to care about the rules. We saw resurrection of legal cases far beyond the statute of limitations. The courts didn't care. The rule of law and the fairness of justice was suddenly swept away in this 5-year period of time. It's been 5 years of us entering this pandemic, which signaled an era, in my view, of a great controversy. And I think one of the centerpieces of the controversy is what we call in our book the biopharmaceutical complex. The biopharmaceutical complex is what you would think of as the healthcare system or the medical orthodoxy or big pharma. It's this conglomeration. You know, we all need healthcare. We all seek, at some point in our life, an interaction with a doctor, a nurse, a medication, a treatment, a surgery, to keep us on the right track, keep us alive. And what's at the center of this right now, and there is a multitude of indicators, is that the public worldwide has lost their trust in the medical health care system. Why? Why shouldn't we feel great about our healthcare system? Why shouldn't we feel great about our emergency response systems? Why shouldn't we feel safe or secure? Why have we lost our trust? Because the series of working examples that's been presented to us. The COVID-19 pandemic and its response has been a complete disaster. It's been a disaster. There's ample evidence that across the world there was a suppression of all forms of early treatment to help people. As these government reports indicate, there was a massive propaganda campaign to make the problem seem far more worse than it was, driving fear. The suppression of of treatments promoted hospitalization, and it promoted death. Virtually all the deaths that happened with the pandemic happened in the hospital. So the pandemic response was a complete disaster itself. If the governments never got involved at all and the doctors and nurses just did what they thought was reasonable, we would have been better off. What crimes could Fauci have been preemptively pardoned for? Well, it's in our book, and we have this outside. The first author, John Leake, is here, best-selling author. The 2 crimes we outline in our book, and we provide ample evidence for this, for Fauci, and that ring is fraud. We were deceived, and government reports indicate that we've been deceived. on a massive level. And the second one is mass negligent homicide. People died. People died in our country. And there were two mechanisms of death. One was with acute COVID-19, and they died because they didn't receive the treatments they should have early enough at home. And the second mechanism of death was after vaccination. Those are the two ways people could die during the pandemic that were avoidable. Those were the crimes. That's a pretty heavy set of allegations or accusations. But when there are such crimes, and government reports bring it up, the proper response is special counsels and investigations. And a special counsel on looking for what we call targets, people we think actually committed the crime, subjects, people who we want to interview, but could also have been a perpetrator, and then lastly, witnesses. But the special counsels, the three of them I think we need, is we need one on the origins of SARS-CoV-2, who was responsible for creating it. Let's get this down, and did they indeed commit crimes? The second one is going to be on the suppression of early treatment. Who were these individuals and who motivated them to suppress the early use of the drugs doctors found worked for COVID-19? Specifically, nasal sprays and gargles early on, where the Federal Trade Commission is actively suppressing anyone who tried to support nasal sprays and gargles. Very simple things. The first year of the pandemic, hydroxychloroquine. The second year of the pandemic, ivermectin. But there was a suppression of monoclonal antibodies, which are high-tech and safe and effective. Third special prosecutor, in my view, should be on the COVID-19 vaccine campaign. And why is it today, despite all of us here having gotten through the pandemic, why is it that no country in the world has opened the vials of the vaccines to figure out, are they contaminated or what's wrong with them? And no country in the world has pulled them off the market. Anywhere. We don't use products or inject them into human bodies without undergoing inspections for quality and purity and safety. It doesn't happen for any other product except these vaccines for the last 5 years. Every rule for good medical compliance has been absolutely broken with these vaccines. And I know many of you took them. Many of our family members took them, and we are trying to recalibrate on what we should do now. Many have gotten the message they're not taking anymore. It's pretty obvious no one's taking anymore, but what to do next? I mentioned entering a period of a great controversy, a biopharmaceutical medical controversy. I was concerned for a period of time that I, as a doctor and as an epidemiologist and a public figure, that I had become entrenched potentially on the wrong side of an argument. Have you ever done that? Have you ever dug in on something and then you say, you get to the point, am I on the wrong side of this? I mean, there's a lot of smart doctors who say the vaccines are safe and effective. There's still a lot of smart doctors that say there's no treatment for COVID outside of taking the vaccines. A lot of my friends. Could I be wrong on this? The great confirmation that I had that something had gone wrong in medicine was the sudden transgender crisis. My same friends who think the vaccines are safe and effective suddenly think that boys can become girls and girls can become boys. They're the same people. What? Where did that come from? It's an ideology. Just like the vaccines are an ideology. Vaccines have about a 300-year history, but they are taken on faith, and there is a religious aspect to vaccines. We saw that with the papal coin where, this is the Pope and the Vatican issue this, where a boy is about to receive the Eucharist. It's on the 20 euro coin. But instead of getting the body and blood of Christ, he gets a vaccine. That's from the Vatican. That tells you that vaccines and vaccinology is like an ideology. It's become like a medical religion. The same thing has happened with gender. In 2021, the American Medical Association put out a communication. Said starting immediately, we should not put gender on birth certificates. What? This has gone on since the beginning of mankind to basically understand gender at the point of birth. Now, when my kids were born, we didn't know the gender until the time Maha delivered. That's what had happened. Then you organize the nursery into pink or blue. Nowadays, people get ultrasounds. But suddenly in 2021, the AMA says, well, it doesn't matter what you see on ultrasound. Don't put anything on the birth certificate, and the child will decide later on when they're before puberty. Yes, you're laughing, but this is what your doctors in your trusted health systems and the nurses and the administrators now suddenly believe. It's not a joke. What has gotten into their mind? Elon Musk calls this a woke mind virus. It's like a contagious mental virus has gotten into the minds of doctors and nurses all of a sudden. And it has to do with gender. Well, you heard what Trump said today about this. Can you imagine this has to make it into an inaugural address? Historians will write about this, where he had to clarify boys will be men and girls will be women. That's it. There's only two genders. The transgender crisis, and it is a crisis for these children who fall into this, for sure, is confirmation we've entered a period of time where the medical mind is not thinking correctly. They're not processing what's going on. There's hubris. There's mass mimicry, what's called a mimesis. It's just people are mimicking each other in some way. That the medical community is subject to indoctrination, is subject to repetitive messaging about diversity, ethnicity, inclusion. It's far into our specialty now. Do you know the correct answer on a medical board exam now is that if a 10-year-old boy presents to a doctor with gender ambiguity and is uncertain regarding puberty, the correct thing to do is start puberty blockers. That's the correct answer on a board exam. Doctors feel so strongly about this that when Texas banned transgender surgeries and medicines and this program for children under age 18, and it was banned September 5th of 2023, that 3 doctors at UT Southwestern, a trusted medical school, I know, I graduated there as a top graduate, at UT Southwestern feel so strongly about this that they violated Texas law and still did these procedures and treatments on these children. And now Ken Paxton has to sue these doctors. This is no different than doctors and health systems suppressing the early treatment of COVID-19. This is no different than Houston Methodist CEO essentially forcing the COVID vaccine on the entire medical community and then forcing these nurses and other people out of their jobs. It's the same thing. It's a mindset. It's a warped mindset. And let me tell you what, there are very few doctors and nurses that are willing to point this out, what I'm pointing out right now. You can't find them. Stan Goldfarb is a friend of mine. I've published with him a lot over the years before this great controversy is the former dean at the University of Pennsylvania, one of the best medical schools in the United States. And he was a dean there for 40 years. And a few years before the pandemic, he was told that in the medical curriculum, there needed to be a new topic, critical race theory, in medical school. And Stan went in the New York Times and he wrote an op-ed. He said, you know, in a profession of which is very racially diverse, and I would argue the medical profession is probably one of the most diverse of all. You know, we have a large number of physicians, probably a third or more, who are not even born in the United States. They come from India, Pakistan, the Middle East, South America. We are super diverse. And for years and years and years, we've been 50% women and 50% men, and just on and on and on. My son went to medical school at the University of Texas in Houston, McGovern School of Medicine. And remember, on diversity, the inverse of diversity is a white man. Because everybody else has a diversity claim, right? A woman can be diverse. Someone who's African American is diverse. Hispanic is diverse. Asian. But a white man is not diverse. There's nothing about me that's diverse. So if UT Houston could get perfect on diversity, they would have 0 white men. Well, in his class, it was 9% white men. 9%. I was a program director for years. I used to get emails all the time. What are you going to do to improve diversity? I said, well, I'm 80% non-white men. That's pretty diverse. So the medical community, out of all the different sectors, appears to be susceptible to indoctrination, susceptible to groupthink, incredibly tethered to their professional associations, much so that if a professional association comes out with a COVID misinformation policy or with a stance on vaccination or on transgender medicine, in the medical community, your doctors need to snap in and comply with that. They feel tethered. Now we're in this uncomfortable situation where people are saying, Dr. McCullough, I really agree with you. This is really terrible. Our center's doing transgender surgery, but I can't say anything about it. Or how can I get out of taking one of these vaccines? So medical freedom and health freedom is something that the public thinks they need and want, and they do. But medical freedom and freedom of thought and freedom of speech and thinking is greatly needed now among the medical practitioners themselves. And yet they don't seem to be able to form and organize to be able to do that. So one association that's done that is the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons. They have been chartered in the United States since 1943. They're the only organization that promoted early home treatment for COVID-19. In the year 2000, which is 25 years ago, they passed a resolution that no one should ever be forced to take a vaccine if they wish not to take one. There should never be a vaccine mandate. That a child taking a vaccine should have nothing to do with whether or not they can attend school or their employment or going into the military. So there's a great opportunity now at this inflection point, this nexus, where we're seeing so many things happen, not just in medical care, but in public health and safety. So you think about what we've seen in the last 4 years, you know, conflicts that we don't get a good window into what exactly is going on in Ukraine, a conflict in the Middle East of which we do see mass death and destruction, but then a whole series of bizarre things. A ship runs into a bridge in Maryland, and the ship is trapped, and the bridge goes down, and then people die. We've seen 2 hurricanes sweep in, North Carolina and Florida, and a public health response to it that doesn't make us proud, an emergency response for which we don't feel good as Americans. People are pointing fingers like gross incompetency everywhere that we can see. A fire in Lahaina, and now fires in LA, where the conclusion is most of this was preventable and certainly could have been anticipated, and not feeling good about our response. We saw an attempt to assassinate now our President of the United States, and we don't feel good about what in the world anybody was doing to stop that one. Drones flying over New Jersey with no explanation, and then it's dropped. We have seen too much. It's too much. So we have to organize. I think we have to ask some serious questions. We've heard great things about a new movement, Make America Healthy Again. I'd say Make America Safer Again as a broader moniker. But what can that possibly mean? For sure, support of health freedom. And you want to see really strong support for a couple of concepts. One is called medication reconciliation. If you are ever taking a medicine at home, you have the right to take that in the hospital and take it in the hospital. Never let anybody take that right away from you. If you're taking ivermectin and it's working for you and you're sick with COVID, take it in the hospital. Never let anyone strip your rights in the hospital. Otherwise, walk out or have somebody wheel you out. The second thing is in the hospital, you have a right to shared decision making. A shared decision making. You have a right in the clinic to that. You say, listen, I want it. I want it, and here's the reason why. Let's negotiate. I had a patient today tell me that her doctor wouldn't order a specific test regarding the COVID spike protein. The doctor wanted to see more evidence. Listen, this is not the patient's duty to overcome the burden of evidence for the doctor. There's a shared decision making there. It's your right, okay? Make America healthy again. No mandates of any kind in healthcare. No one can be mandated to take a drug, get a drug forced down your throat, a needle forced in your arm, ever. Mandates should be gone at all levels. The COVID vaccines are so dangerous. In our state, the mandates for the COVID-19 vaccines, they themselves had to be banned or outlawed. That should tell you something. We should never have to do that again. A child never again should have to take a shot to go to school. If the parents want to vaccinate and the doctors think that's reasonable to do it. Very important. No mandates. Number two, on vaccines, we're to a point now where the vaccine marketplace is a $78 billion annual marketplace. COVID vaccines, both Pfizer and Moderna, ripped for nearly $100 billion. For the problem of high blood pressure in the United States, that market's probably about $20 billion. Diabetes, maybe $30 billion. Vaccines have gotten out of control. And one of the reasons why they've gotten out of control is the companies are free of liability. So we don't have any natural market dynamics. Normally, if there's a drug that comes on the market and it's high risk, high benefit, well, maybe it's used or it's not used, but the companies have to assume liability for their products. The people who make these balloons are liable for these balloons. Vaccine liability must come back to the manufacturers. That means the 1986 Vaccine Injury Compensation Act must be rescinded. In that legislation, it says vaccines have unavoidable harms, therefore the company should be free of liability for safety problems. It's not right. The only thing that will encourage the companies to make safer products is for them to have liability. So that's another important point. No mandates. Rescind the 1986 Vaccine Injury Compensation Act. Very, very important. We need to fundamentally get this behemoth of this biopharmaceutical complex out of our living rooms. We need to ban, just like we banned tobacco, commercials on TV. We need to ban pharmaceutical commercials on TV. Yeah, it's too much now. It's too much, because this is what we found out. Even though the companies say they want a right to show you what their newest product is, the reason why it needs to happen is what we found, and we learned this through many interviews and investigations, is that, for instance, the companies, the pharmaceutical companies, Pfizer in particular, would tell the stations, you know, we own you. Our advertising is so big, we own you. We don't want to see any reports on dangers of the vaccines. It was too much. So, you know, 95 or 96% of the drugs I prescribe are generic drugs anyway. They're advertising very rare, obtuse drugs for rare conditions, and it's not working out. The commercials are confusing. You'll notice for a medicinal product, they'll read the disclaimers really fast. Have you seen that little tiny, you know, may cause tuberculosis or death or what? It was like, but it's even worse for vaccines, because our agencies advertise vaccines for the companies. So you'll have the CDC doing a Pfizer ad for Pfizer, and they just say, well, here, take a shot, it's good, it'll protect you and your grandmother, and no listing of the side effects. There's not a single COVID vaccine that has an advertisement that says, warning, may cause fatal myocarditis or blood clots, which they do. We can't have that anymore. So I think that needs to go. So if Robert F. Kennedy is confirmed, my understanding is his day in the Senate for confirmation is Thursday. If he's confirmed, the next questions will be, what will be the big policy moves? And I think it's important to understand that while many of us want health freedom changes immediately, like we want things to happen right now and we want them to happen by decree, we still live in a democracy. We live in a complex society, certainly a complex community in Washington. I know, I've testified and been in Capitol Hill in both the Senate and the House. I know about this. Be patient, because these policy changes are going to take time. They're not going to happen instantaneously. But we want to see the theme of medical freedom start to percolate through these policies. And for sure, what we want to see, and Trump said this very strongly, we want to see the abolition of censorship in our society. It has to go, because it crept in, and it crept in strong. And it was censorship in my field, in the biomedical field, but there was censorship big time in your field, the political field, that changed the calculus of what people were seeing. There has been an ingress with this censorship of propaganda, and we cannot allow our country to operate on the principles of propaganda. That's exactly what happened in Nazi Germany. It's exactly what happened in post-World War II Stalinist Russia. And so your ears need to be alerted to the use of propaganda, because it's actually codified in policies by a variety of organizations now. 6 propaganda terms: misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, anti-science, anti-vaxxer, conspiracy theorist. Anybody throwing out those terms immediately say, wait a minute, don't propagandize me. Misinformation's the biggest one. Misinformation operates like this. You want to impress your view on someone else. So you immediately grab what you hold to be true and you say, oh, I'm holding information. Therefore, you're spreading misinformation. That's exactly how Hitler operated. It's exactly how Stalin operated. No one holds agency over the truth, particularly when we're in a novel pandemic or we're in a political environment where people hold different political views. You're not holding political information or misinformation. You have your own view based on your observations. Don't let anyone propagate. I don't use those terms They didn't exist in the medical literature before 2021. Now, misinformation is a mesh term. It's a search term in the National Library of Medicine. Do you know Oxford University has a Oxford Misinformation Index? They're going to try to measure you on misinformation. That is wide open propaganda. So what I say is that, listen, misinformation doesn't exist. There simply are observations and multiple points of view. Let's discuss it. Okay. Anti-science. Peter Hotez, Baylor College of Medicine in Houston. He has an entire lecture campaign in a book. It's titled The Deadly Rise of Anti-Science, meaning he holds science, and anybody who disagrees with them is spreading anti-science. Reject that. Reject that. No, science is a process. We all use the scientific method to test our hypotheses. No one holds it. Anthony Fauci, on an interview, said he represents science. That's hegemony. That's hubris. We cannot allow this to happen. How about anti-vaxxer? People say, well, you're an anti-vaxxer. Say it to me. I counted up. I've taken 69 shots in my life. I cannot be an anti-vaxxer. I'm over-vaccinated. I can't be an anti-vaxxer. It's impossible. But I am vaccine risk aware, and that's fair. That's fair. Last one, conspiracy theorist. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. You're cooking up conspiracies. I say, no, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a rational theorist. I'm a rational theorist. I have theories like you do, and they're rational, so let's discuss them. So with that, I'll let that be the final word, and if we have time for questions or signatures, it'll be afterwards. I'm Dr. Peter McCullough. Thank you so much for having me. Great to be back. God bless America. Thank you.
I think we can all say this is a very informative and very knowledgeable person who spoke to us tonight from his heart. He lives and he believes what he does. As a token of his appreciation, we're giving him a certificate to Dr. McCullough for attending tonight. And then we have a present for you, the famous present.
So patriotic. Thank
Now, MAGA, do you drink coffee? Maha, do you drink coffee? Okay, if he doesn't drink coffee, okay, he does. He may have one of these already, but here's the second one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Very good.
Yes. He will be out in the foyer. His books are on sale, and he will sign them. And if you have questions for him, further questions, do so. Jack, thank you for everything that you have done for the last 2 years. We appreciate it. And your team. I will say this. I do not want Jack to be outdone. He had a MAGA hat on. I've got Trump socks on. So, tonight, we thank you for coming out. If you would, leave your tags on the table. Turn the volume down. Turn the volume down. There was a miscommunication earlier tonight. Our February meeting will be on the 17th, not the 10th. When you make reservations, it's for the 17th. So there it is, the 17th.
you.